17 months in prison. That's how much Taruk Barzouk will get after pleading guilty to attacking a Jewish protester during the pro-Israeli demonstrations in New York City. Prosecutors say Barzouk, a 20-year-old Palestinian American, was charged with hate crimes, that he identified himself as a Jew hater, labeled Jews as worthless, and extolled Allah to get rid of Jews. Authorities say one of the Jewish protesters he punched was Roman Efremov.
I think it's disgusting. And I was wearing an Israeli flag. I was wearing my hat with the Israeli flag. I had my Jewish star out that I'm wearing. And it's just disgusting what he did. It was uncalled for.
In court, Barzouk apologized to the victims and said he hopes they can forgive him. I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. Those people are probably saving a carload of cash right now. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
The following show is paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
Welcome. This is Sidebar. Sidebar, a frank discussion on life, the law, and liberty. Sponsored by the LaHood Norton Law Group. And now, your objection sustained. Your hosts, Karen Klaus and former Bexar County District Attorney, Nico LaHood.
Thank you so much for listening to Sidebar. Go to sidebartv.com to get on social media, to watch during and join us after the show. Also, please consider becoming a contributor. You can do so at sidebartv.com. We appreciate every single one of you who helps us with this show every single week. So every week you can come here to hear former Bexar County DA Nico LaHood, trial lawyer, managing partner of LaHood Norton Law Group, and George Araujo, scholar, former chemist, and pharmaceutical researcher and director. I'm Karen Klaus. I'm off this week, and so I'm passing it on to you, Nico.
Well, yeah, I guess, man. I was moving my mouth for those people that are watching online. They're thinking, I'm hearing Karen's voice, but I'm seeing Saulo's face. It doesn't match. Well, I identify as a Karen
Saulo,
today.
You're not as
sexy,
pleasant looking as Karen.
Thank you. Well, thank you on her behalf.
Well, thank you, Karen, for doing that, because there's no one that starts a show like Karen.
Yep.
And I just get into the studio this morning. So welcome, guys. Thanks for having Saulo. Thanks for jumping in. And we got a lot of things to talk about, a lot of topics to talk about. I know Karen sends out the topics during the week, and there's going to be, what are we going to talk about today, George? Anti-Semitism. Is it a problem in the GOP, H-1B visas, and then the midterms, and then we're going to talk about
so many things. First of all, you just finished an important case. How do you feel?
Oh, the trial. Yeah, that was a big trial.
Now you can answer that, right?
Yeah, now I can answer that question. People were
Nico, for those that don't know, when that case is going on, what things can you talk about and what things can't you talk about while the case is going on?
Well, technically you can talk about everything because the jury's been sat. So once the jury is sat and then the judge gives instructions not to look at any social media, any news reporting, anything, you're not supposed to. You're not supposed to talk to anybody about it. You can technically talk about it.
Got it.
But, it's just kind of, bad form to do it. And I don't like to do it just because I like to let it play out. I don't want to, be presumptuous about anything. So it's leading up to the jury being sat and selected and empowered and paneled is where you shouldn't be talking about things, because then you could be accused of trying to influence a jury or influence the jury panel, the veneer panel. But so now we can talk about it. So just for those that didn't know, I don't know how you wouldn't know, this has been a huge story. 3 officers, first time ever in Bexar County, officers were accused of murder and charged with murder for a shooting on duty, and multiple officers. So it was kind of a two-first. It was a first for officers to be charged with this, and then it was a first to have that many officers on trial at the same time. So it was a two-first. And it happened from an incident. And here's the challenge. The challenge was that the narrative was wrong from the beginning. You had Chief McManus, and I like Bill. Okay, I like Bill. I worked closely with him when I was district attorney. This is not a shot on Bill as the person. It's the Bill, the professional here, or lack thereof, not from the membership, from the brass, from the administration. He set the tone. McManus set the tone when he said this was a mental health call. It was never a mental health call. I'm not saying that Ms. Bettis wasn't dealing with mental health issues, but the 3 men that were charged with this offense, Flores, Alejandro, and Villalobos, they were responding to an officer in danger call, an E-tone, call it emergency call, it's an E-tone. And even the original officers, Rojas, Ramos, and Salinas, the first ones at the scene, they weren't responding to a mental health call. They were responding to a criminal mischief call. A call where a woman had allegedly cut, well, she did, she admitted it, but cut these fire alarm wires to a building, which is very dangerous, and the alarm was going off. So the fire department showed up, and then, of course, the initiating officer showed up, and then a backup officer showed up, then another officer showed up, Salinas ultimately. And Salinas was the one that she swung the hammer at in the window and literally nearly missed him. And the jury saw all this. So once that happened, it changed. Now it went to an aggravated assault against a peace officer, first-degree felony. That's when the E-tone went out, and that's when all these officers, 15 to be total, including 3 sergeants, by the way, responded. And then they tried to get in to apprehend her. There was an argument, and there's another side to this, Saulo and George, that has to be talked about at some point. The absolute insanity of a theory that the DA's office was trying to push forward. The idea that because Ms. Perez thought that these officers and she was wrong, by the way, thought these officers were overstepping their bounds and could not go into her apartment to arrest her after she committed an aggravated assault against a peace officer and needed a warrant, quote unquote, gave her the permission and the authority to commit alleged murder or to do an ag assault against the peace officers. And that was their theory. And the reason why I got so heated early in the trial is because I was incensed by it, because they've never made that argument before, the prosecutors, nor any DA's office has done it. The law doesn't allow that. The statute is clear against that, matter of fact, in Chapter 9.31, B2 to be specifically. And the judge had to ultimately tell the jury, just ignore what they're saying. Yeah. This is not an issue in the case. So I don't know where you want to go with that, Saulo, but it was a huge trial.
How long was it?
4.5 weeks.
4.5 weeks. How did it feel in the room when you got the verdict?
Oh, it was relieved. It was a relief. I mean, for us, it was all or nothing. I mean, if all of them weren't acquitted, it wouldn't have been a win for us. It was a joint defense agreement, so everybody had separate lawyers, but with a joint defense agreement, we were representing all, and all, it's like kind of 3 musketeers, all for one and one for all. And so when you have multiple verdicts like that, so you hear Flores, and it was wonderful. A quick verdict like that, I was leaning very strongly that it was going to be a not guilty. I really didn't feel like any jury, especially the jury that we had, was going to come back and divvy that up in a different way or come back with a guilty that quickly. Because it was just, the evidence that we were bringing, we felt was overwhelming. But then when Sergeant Flores' verdict was read, I mean, it was wonderful. And then Alejandro's verdict was read, and then Villalobos, and it was a wonderful feeling.
They gave their first interview 2 days ago, right? To KSAT.
We did, yeah. We gave it to Yami first, and KBB, and then KSAT, and then Ken's. We did kind of 3 days in a row.
Christopher says, congratulations, Counselor. You're a master of your craft. It's too bad our DA and Chief of Police care more about headlines than justice. The conviction was there to be had. Christopher, thank you for your comment.
Thanks, Christopher. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, it was wonderful, and it was interesting because it was live streamed. Yeah. And so people were watching. People were watching. And I'm glad they were watching because they got to see exactly how a trial works. And George, you know this, why I'm so passionate about due process, because somebody thought these guys were guilty.
Well, I've said that it's in your bloodstream, and you could really see that it was coming out of you. I mean, it's who you are, and I think that matters to a jury. That you're not just putting on an act, and you're just but that this is, you actually really believe it. It's authentic. So I think that was exceptional. That's the right way to say it, a true master of the craft. And I don't mean this to just blow sunshine up your ass here, because, you know, there's plenty of occasions when I don't. Sure. but I think it's true, and I said that from the very beginning. You put people in the front row. That's important, to actually be put at the scene. But I think you also help people appreciate the implications of a ruling in the wrong. And I think you help the jury appreciate, understand what a ruling for X or a ruling for Y means here. And I said to you, I think this had national implications, because this isn't the only city with a police department, right? And so I had questions. I wondered about the ag assault. Did they have the right to go into the premises even before the ag assault?
There's an argument that they would have, but it was irrelevant to our guys. It was legally irrelevant. But see, the DA's office, the prosecutors were trying to confuse the issues, and it actually was working at first. They were confused, like, wait a minute. And so when we finally made the arguments over and over again and persistently, and Judge Rangel, who's a great judge, by the way, I'm telling you guys, this is why I tell you guys that when it comes to politics, when it comes to the courthouse, I don't vote DR. I mean, I just don't. I don't. And I'm happy to give advice when it comes to election times. Ron Rangel, who I wish ran for DA, but he decided not to in the end, decided not to run. He's a great jurist. He's fair. He's thoughtful. He made some good rulings, and people, that helped to shape the trial, because the judge is a referee, and he made the right calls in this situation. But he had to finally just ultimately reprimand the DA's office and say to jury, this is irrelevant. Everything they've been arguing, irrelevant. Then they shifted to another argument. So they were just, their theory kept molding and changing as the trial went on. But yes, it was a huge application.
I wondered about that because I know what you're saying. Look, that's not really relevant. It's interesting. We can discuss it some other time, but this isn't the case for that because the reality is that an ag assault had been committed.
Once the aggravated assault against Salinas happened, and I remember our guys didn't know what happened before. The three on trial, they had no idea what happened before that. They weren't there at the scene. They weren't the original officers. They didn't know. All they knew is there was an E-tone. An officer said, I have one at gunpoint. And that's all they knew. And so then they showed up, and a hammer.
Nico, how did you feel about it being broadcasted? Do you think that should be done every single time? Because something that I noticed, everybody has an opinion, of course. But I think if it wasn't broadcasted, if your moments weren't broadcasted, a lot of people would have had their own idea. I think more people would have said, they're guilty because of the situation.
I think you're right, Saulo. No, I think it was a blessing it was broadcasted because people have a less opportunity to contradict what the jury did.
Yes.
How could the jury do? Well, watch the trial. If you want to watch all 4.5 weeks.
Because even then, last night I was looking at some of the posts from the different media outlets, and I saw the comments on it, and I was like, wow, was everybody watching the same thing?
All you have to do is ask them respectfully. Just say, did you watch all of the evidence?
So true.
And if they say no, and we had a wonderful opportunity to speak with the jury after. We spoke with the jury after. And they were so gracious. It was a great jury. And I actually went to lunch with one of them the next day. And he said, Nico, we made the decision in 15 minutes. So it took 86 minutes but because the court, he said, well, the judge bought us lunch. And we didn't want to be disrespectful. We made, on the first vote, these are his words, not mine. We made the decision in about 15 minutes, but then we waited for lunch and we fellowshipped.
Well, tell us your thoughts if you're watching online or you're watching the radio. Please let us know your thoughts. What do you think about the case? What were your thoughts? Put them in the comments, and we'll be right back with SidebarTV.com.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
And we're back to SidebarTV.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking it. Thank you for sharing it. It helps us a lot. Please, if you're watching on Facebook, you're watching on YouTube, you're watching on Next, on the different pages on Facebook, please like it. And if you share, we will love your comments, and we will love if you can share it. So, Nico, you said that there was some fallout from this case.
Well, yeah, look, I mean, the SAPD brass is getting fallout. The DA's office is getting fallout. Like I said, I mean, this was a 15-minute verdict. If you can poll the jury if you want to, if they're happy to talk. But they're saying, how do you have a 4.5 week trial and have a 15-minute verdict? We can talk about the litigation styles of both sides or whatever. But when you look at when you get down into it, to your point earlier about it being broadcasted, I'm so glad it was, so people saw the evidence.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, how did it get here? Because a lot of evidence came out where there was a meeting early. Again, this is the evidence that came out. So it was uncontroverted because the government could have brought in witnesses to controvert that. And I challenged them at the end. I go, why didn't they controvert it? They could have. It's their duty. If you have a question, it's the government's responsibility to give you an answer. Where there was a meeting with SAPD brass within 6.5 hours of this incident. And then a captain came out of that saying, hey, it's a bad shoot. They're gonna get prosecuted. Then that captain met with Daryl Harris of the DA's office sometime after the 6.5 hours, but before the 12 hours when they walked, or 14 hours when they walked the warrant. And then said, this is a bad shoot. So the DA's office early on, nobody saw all the evidence. Nobody did. It was impossible. We got all the audit trails. We knew exactly what videos were watched by whom and whose number and things like that. So all that came out. And they made this decision without talking to witnesses and taking full statements and looking at all the videos that this was not a justifiable shoot. and then went forward. So
are you allowed to talk to the oh my goodness, the ones that make the
jury?
The jury afterwards.
Well, I had lunch with one of them.
When?
Yeah,
Afterwards?
The next day. Yeah, the next day.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They came out. They took pictures with us. They were so gracious. It was wonderful. We took pictures. They had questions. We met in the courtroom. I'll show you the pictures on break. And then one of the jurors and I had lunch the next day. And I just so much insight. It was wonderful because then you get to ask questions.
Totally.
And say, hey, how is this coming across? And it was wonderful.
What questions did you ask the juror?
I said, was my passion, like I said in closing, was my passion too much? Because nope, it was appropriate. I go, because could you tell? Because you could tell it was genuine. To your point, George, it was intense, but we couldn't believe. And it was interesting to see the judge tell them, don't argue this anymore. Don't consider this, because we were wondering, but you guys were making a great point. They made a point that we're the ones that brought all the evidence to them. We had 5 experts. The state had 0. The government had 0 experts on a use of force case with law enforcement on officer-involved shooting. We had 5 experts.
Wow.
And they talked about each expert and what they liked about him, and then, different styles and
that's
things.
why I love Hood Norton, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that matters a lot.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows the law and somebody who's not contrived. And people can accuse you of a lot of things, and you have your flaws, but contrivance isn't one of them. I mean, you are who you are.
Yeah.
And I matters.
Yeah.
I mean, for a jury to say, well, this guy obviously knows what he's talking about, and he really believes it.
Yeah. What's your next case, Nico?
We have the Uvalde case.
Is that going to be broadcasted?
I'm sure it's.
Man, that's going to be delicate.
That's a big one. Yeah.
Oh my goodness,
it's unfortunate.
Donna says, praying for these 3 officers and their families. Thank you for fighting with integrity and truth.
Thank you very
much. So let's talk about.
They're out of the criminal woods, but there's civil and disciplinary. Issues,
well, I mean, it's not civil disciplinary. They get back pay and they get their job back, or they don't, and then there's going to be lawsuits. I mean, this is horrible. Their family's been through hell. 2.5 years of being splattered all over the place, thinking that they were responding to a mental health. Someone said the YouTube is blanking out on audio. Just FYI for the audios people. It's been so. These interviews have been important for them. Yeah. They had to keep their mouth shut the whole time, and we've been their mouthpiece. And so, we talked about it, and I, talked about the personal side, and they needed to talk. I think it's been very healing for them. So.
Okay, so let's start on the topic. So, has America become America first, Jews last, George? No, joking. America first, Jews last. Is that what we're hearing from the different podcasters and things like that, or is that a real thing or no?
I don't know that America's become that way. I would doubt very much that America's become that way. But there's a significant minority that's, I would say, a vocal minority, and some of it inside conservatism. I mean, it's mostly led by the left in terms of sheer numbers. But there's a significant minority, a vocal minority inside alleged conservatism. I don't happen to think these people are necessarily conservative. I think that they would. If they're not trying to do that, I think they're certainly advancing that. At the end of the day, it's.
A friend of mine that works with the government once said, "Saulo, just be careful with the media." She says this: "Be careful when you hear of there's a bandwagon of this thought. Something behind the scenes is happening. For example, when I hear everybody say, 'Oh, everything's racism,' I get concerned because sometimes it's not racism; it's just ignorance. There's some racist people out there, but America's not racist." But a lot of things that people do in regards to other races, they're just ignorant because they don't know. And then now I hear the word anti-Semitism. Give me the definition of anti-Semitism.
The hate of Jewish people because they're Jewish. I mean, that just boils it down for me.
So you think the conversation that's going on right now about the Jews is anti-Semitism?
I think we have a problem with disagreeing-ism. I mean, just because you disagree with somebody, do you have to put an ism behind it?
We're going to make a shirt, Mario, with that one.
Yeah, I mean, if I criticize Israel, I'm not anti-Semite. If I criticize, no one ever calls someone a Jesus phobe or a Christian phobe or Christianism or anti-Christianism. Nobody talks about that. If you disagree with an Islamic worldview, doesn't mean that you're anti-Islamic and you're not an Islamophobe.
Yeah.
If you disagree with LGBT, you're not a homophobe. If you disagree with that, I mean, a phobe is an unrational fear of something, right? An irrational fear of something. And so, is it irrational? So, anti-Semitism to me, and George, correct me on the original, on the definition if you want. I mean, it is the hate of a Jewish person or Jewish people because they're Jewish. I mean, just because of that fact that they're Jewish. Now, there's people that disagree on the view of Israel. Traditional support of Israel has usually been on the right side, and now it's kind of it's all over the place. But I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's anti-Semitism just because you disagree with the governmental decisions of Israel or you don't like Bibi Netanyahu or something like that. And so I just think that word is thrown around too much. There's disagreement, obviously, in the GOP on how our relations, international relationship is with Israel and our support of Israel and things of that nature, and whether truly America comes first or not. But it's worth examining. I think there's nothing wrong with worth examining any situation. No one should get a pass. Not a Republican, not a Democrat, not a Christian, not an Islamic person, not a Hindu, a Buddhist, not an atheist. Nobody should get a pass. We should all be truth scavengers, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And truth is objective. It's not subjective. If you have an opinion, give your opinion. But there are some objective truths. Is a relationship with Israel and Middle East beneficial to the United States?
Good question.
Just start there. That's why I'm going to give you my simple analysis. Okay, it's the closest to our government as anything in the Middle East. And they're surrounded by a sea of things that would not fly in the United States, whether people like it or not. I promise you, you do not want a Sharia law ruling in this country, and people need to wake up really quick. So that's the first. Now, just because we believe that Israel is the closest to our government, and there's a benefit because they are kind of a stabilizing force over the years in the Middle East, doesn't mean they get a pass. How about that? I mean, they don't get a pass. So we can criticize them because love is criticism. God rebukes us and corrects us because he loves us. So we can rebuke and correct someone you agree with out of love and out of maintaining a relationship. It's this idea that if you support somebody, you can never disagree with them, and if you don't support somebody, you can never agree with them is stupid to me. And that in my world, that doesn't fly. It just doesn't.
And what I worry sometimes, Nico, is because you've said it before that when everything is Hitler, it loses the value of what you're saying, right? I think the same thing is happening with anti-Semitism.
Well, that's right, but there's also been a denial of the real Hitler's harms. That's the problem.
Yeah, of course,
and some of the people that are trafficking this, and yes, Candace Owens and Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson, lately particularly Tucker Carlson, some of that stuff's totally unhinged. And while I'm all for free speech, I am. I'm not for irresponsible speech. And this speech has implications. There are no two sides. This is well established and documented what Adolf Hitler was. Nick Fuentes, I think he was on Alex Jones, saying that he didn't think he was particularly evil. Is he out of his
he was cool?
Yeah, right. I mean, and it was almost endearing. Are you out of your mind? That's not. I mean, look, Alex Jones, I can understand why he would platform a guy like Nick Fuentes, but for Tucker Carlson, who has really a very impressive following, for him to platform people like that, at some point, morally, you got to step back and say, yeah, I realize you can, but it doesn't mean you should. It is.
So what does that mean? What's the implication? So do you cut Tucker Carlson off and say he's not a conservative anymore? No. I know you're not saying that. I'm saying this. I'm posing that question.
No, what I'm saying is that a lot of the criticism that's come back to Tucker Carlson, indeed, this is where anti-Semitism comes in. I think you're right, and I go back to the official definition of anti-Semitism. I think is about 10 or 11 years old. It goes back to I think it's the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Because there is such a thing, which I happen to think is quite nuts, if not demonic.
What is?
The denial of the Holocaust, which these guys tend to do.
Who's these guys?
I'm talking about Nick Fuentes. In other words,
Candace.
Sort of minimizing, minimizing the gravity of it.
Tucker doesn't deny it.
No.
When you're talking about...
You just said these guys. That's all. We were talking about those three, so I'm going to make sure we compartmentalize.
What I'm saying is that Tucker Carlson isn't calling that out. He's not pushing that back. He didn't have Nick Fuentes to say, let's talk about the Holocaust. I think you're crazy for saying that. Or at least say, I think you're wrong for saying that. The evidence is overwhelming. There aren't two sides on this. It's well established for 80 years. This is not up for discussion. And if you think it is, there's something fundamentally wrong with you, and that's where it gets into anti-Semitism. The IHRA actually gives examples of rhetoric and conduct.
Give me the definition then, because mine was just simple.
No, I think it cuts to the issue. That in other words, it's a perception of Jews that actually leads to the demonization of Jews, where you literally believe that if a Jew does something, then he's part of a Jewish collective, and that there's a rot at the core of Judaism, a rot at the core of every Jew. There's something fundamentally and inherently wrong with Jews. And so now, obviously, this became racial policy in Germany, and it turns into racism.
Right.
And so you could say it's rooted in racism, but it could just be a hatred of the Jews, not necessarily because it's racial, because you think, they killed Jesus, for instance. That's another thing. So I guess my point is, you hear these kinds of things being said by these individuals, and now it's literally every evil you can possibly imagine that's going on. And it goes beyond Gaza, it goes beyond Israeli policy, and I think you're right. I think you should be able to disagree on that. But there's something wrong with what they're doing because they're wrong. They're just fundamentally wrong. There's something wrong with these people. The Jews control the world. There's a collective of Jews. There's only about 7 million Jews out of a country of almost 350 million. Okay, where is this cabal of Jews exactly. So the fact that the Jews have some positions in authority, in media, and society and government, there's an overwhelming number of people who aren't Jews that do too.
You can criticize the government of Israel without thinking that Jews are rotten. I mean, and I think that, I mean, look, God criticized the governments of Israel. God rebuked Israel. Just read the book of Judges. I mean, they had 12 judges to save their ass because they were just doing the same crap over and over again. So, I mean, I think what I've seen as someone who never really dug into this until I fairly recently, like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I mean, is you either have to be all in with the Jews and Israel, and Israel is the Jewish people, and the government of Israel is the Jewish people, and if you disagree with them, then you're anti-Semite, you're this or whatever, and God doesn't give you favor, or it's the other way around. It's like, well, hold on, let's distinguish. Look, I mean, for me as a Christian, I have to contend, I think all Christians do, that God chose Israel to bring in the gospel message. Now, I'm just speaking as a Christian now. The Messiah, or Christ, was Jewish.
And we agree on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And at least Christians should, you know. And his second coming is going to be through Israel. That's it. I mean, we got to deal with that. Now, in that process, that doesn't mean that. And also, let's deal with the fact that just because they're the chosen people doesn't mean that they're saved automatically. They have to
we're chosen
Christ.
too. We mess up too.
They have to be accepted. They have to accept Christ as their Savior, theologically and biblically. So they don't get a pass. I know there's some Christians that think the Jews automatically are going to heaven. Well, there's nothing in Scripture that says that.
I'll give you an example in terms of Gaza and the policy in Gaza. If you believe that there's an equivalency between Israel and Gaza, and you're steeped in that belief, it doesn't mean you're anti-Semite, but it leans strongly in that direction.
Because you can't say that on a break. You gotta, okay. Well, I want to because I have an opinion about Gaza that we may get into a little discussion about.
Well, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Please like it up, heart it up, share it with as many people. If you think somebody has an opinion on the topic we're talking about, send it to them. Please text it to them, and we'll be right back. You're watching Sidebar TV.
San Antonio's news, weather, traffic, plus breaking news 24/7. This is News Radio 1200 WOAI from the GiveMeTheVin.com Sell Us Your Cars studio.
I'm Eric Lycum at News Radio 1200 WOAI. President Trump and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene probably won't be swapping Christmas cards this year. Details coming up first, traffic and weather together.
From the WOAI Traffic Center.
35 northbound, the off-ramp to O'Connor is closed due to construction. On 35 southbound between Tupperwine and Thousand Oaks Drive, we got construction that has the roadway down to just one lane. I'm Alexis, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
On our way to partly cloudy 84, we've got cloudy and 71 at the WOAI 24-hour weather center, our top story. President Donald Trump breaking with a longtime congressional ally.
Trump withdrawing his endorsement of Georgia Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, hinting he'll back a primary rival of hers instead. Trump's move away from Greene comes just hours after she criticized his objections to releasing the Epstein files during the government shutdown. She also sided with Democrats in their push to provide health care subsidies.
Fox's Chanley Painter reporting. Nightly closures this weekend at I-10 and Loop 1604. Right lanes of eastbound I-10 closed, as well as a frontage road between La Cantera, Loop 1604, La Cantera Parkway to Via La Cantera between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. Those new flyover lanes open next week. News on demand at WOAI.com. Our next update, top of the hour, breaking information as it happens. I'm Eric Lycum on San Antonio's news, weather, and traffic station, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
This report is sponsored by Mattress Firm. Need better sleep? Score huge deals on your perfect bed at Mattress Firm's Black Friday sale. Stop in today and let the sleep experts find the right upgrade for your unique needs. Mattress Firm. They make sleep easy.
I think we're back. So, are we getting to cancel culture for anybody that's anti-Semitic or sounds anti-Semitic? I think that's another issue with Nico, that sometimes when I hear a legitimate criticism of Israel, it doesn't matter if it's legitimate, it still sounds anti-Semitic, or it feels like people want to cancel them. Because, for example, I know we don't like, or some of you guys in the room, some percentage don't like Candace, but sometimes she says, I'm asking, I want to know. She says that a lot. She's strategic and weird and whatever, but she says, I'm asking. But even her asking, like a lot of us do, like you do, are being canceled.
Well, I think it would have been helpful for our conversation on break to be on air. It's important because we get into passionate conversations because it comes down to this. And George and I disagreed on this, and I think it's helpful for us to talk through it. When you acknowledge, for me, George and I got into a disagreement, and this is I think for Candace, Tucker, Nick Fuentes. I'm just a person that if somebody. A broken clock, as they say, is right twice a day, right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, do I acknowledge it's broken? I get it, but it's still, hey, it's right.
Yeah.
Now, did it intend to be right?
I'll take those 2 times.
It didn't intend to be right. It's broken. It just happens to be right. Okay, so that's the way I look at these people. And so whenever I acknowledge that Nick Fuentes says not everything wrong, it's not about, I'm not trying to appease anybody. I'm trying to acknowledge the fact that I'm a truth scavenger.
Yeah.
I mean, the devil said truthful things. He just did them with a bad intention.
Yeah.
And he tried to deceive Christ. And Christ brought him back to the Word and said, no, it's
And
written.
there were bad results.
Horrible results. And so I am not a supporter of Nick Fuentes. I think he justifies racism. I mean, for me, from a theological standpoint, he said, if you're not Catholic, you're not saved. Well, you're an idiot. You don't understand the Bible. I mean, and I don't think he's helpful, but you have to contend with him. Because whether we like it or not, and I have not done the numbers, I don't know if his audience votes. I have no idea. All I know is he's a voice out there that you have to contend with. And for me, and I think this is where George and I disagree, and it seems, or maybe apparently disagree, is for me to acknowledge that he says some things right, or Candace says things right, or whatever. I mean, I don't have to throw trash out. I don't have to throw them out with the trash and try to dismiss them. And I'm not saying you're trying to do that, George, but maybe that's where we're disagreeing here. It seems like you're trying to do that. They're dismissive. And it's like I heard Bill O'Reilly just kind of be dismissive with Nick Fuentes. Okay, I guess, dude. I mean, you're on the way out. This guy's the new generation.
He's been out for a while.
If you want, I mean, I want to win. Yeah. That is my deal. Like I said on the break, George, with trial. It didn't matter what I thought. It only mattered what those 12 people thought.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I have to reshape my advocacy to my audience.
Yeah.
That's just the way my mind works. Right or wrong, that's the way my mind works.
And you know what he's appealing to, Nico and George? This is what he's appealing to. And Taylor Green is appealing to. Candace is appealing to. The other guy, you know what they're appealing to? America first. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. They're America first and everybody else next.
That's fine. And it's not America first. That's the point that Nico originally said. It's not America first to dismiss Israel as not just an important ally, but perhaps the most significant ally to America in the world, who happens to be in a powder keg called the Middle East, which is doubly more important for America.
Why that, because a lot of people don't know why. Yeah. And I want to make sure that they understand why you made it, because you made a very strong statement, and I'm not saying I disagree with it, by the way.
Most people on the left hate Israel.
Right.
Because they hate America.
Why are America the most important ally in the world? Not in the Middle East. You said the world,
because
not just
they're
the
in effect, ideologically, and certainly constitutionally, really a carbon copy of America in the Middle East. They're kind of a foreign beachhead to America. They
don't have Second Amendment, though. I don't like that.
Well, brother, I understand. They're not America.
Oh, wow.
They're not America, but they're as close as you can possibly get to America without being America. And to have it not in Fiji, but to have it in the Middle East is significant.
I agree with that.
It's truly significant. And so it's really an outpost of American interests in the Middle East. And this notion, what you have to do is you have to be steeped in, and I almost said it, but in BS history. You have, and this is what these morons do. Yeah, morons. And I am dismissive of Nick Fuentes because I do believe philosophically that people of any kind of morality or claim they care about morality should not platform certain views. I do believe that. At some point you have to say, does it make sense to do that? That's A. I mean, I may get a lot of views, but what harm may I do in the process? The idea that we shouldn't do that calculus, and I think that's the issue with Nick Fuentes. But with regard to Israel, it's not America first to dismiss Israel. It's not America first to twist history into a pretzel. It's not America first to say that that Hitler was not particularly evil. He most certainly was. It's not America first when Candace gets out there and tells military personnel to willfully disregard lawful orders from the President of the United States because she thinks it's an unholy or an immoral war. It's not okay for Candace to get out there and tell people who set themselves on fire and kill themselves because they have a philosophical problem with America fighting in the Middle East and actually embraces that notion. That's disgusting.
George, did you just make a case?
Crazy.
Did you just make a
America
case
first
for canceling somebody like Nick Fuentes, like the left does, because they
did
don't
you
like
hear anything else I said?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
but
I am not about.
We don't want them to platform them.
I care about terms. I'm not about cancel culture as we know cancel culture to be. The knee-jerk reaction. My analysis isn't knee-jerk. I am explaining what I'm saying. And I think what that actually is going to do, that kind of, because Nico knows you can be so irresponsible under the law. There's such a thing as a reckless disregard for the consequences of one's actions. And the law takes that into consideration. And some of that impinges on free speech. We can talk about whether it should or not. I'm just saying that other people, smarter than me, acknowledge that, and it's codified into law. So this isn't a crazy thing, but it's a far cry from cancel culture.
But where does it come from? Where does look? I think what George is saying, Salo, from what I hear, is George saying, and I think other people have said this as well. You're not for canceling anybody, Nick Fuentes. You're questioning why Tucker would give him a platform, but would this have changed? And this is where I think first of all, if Tucker wants to do it, he can do it. He did it. I'm fine, and I can disagree with it. But
Nico,
I don't write off Tucker. I don't write off Tucker just because he.
But he's interviewed other world leaders.
It's not. It's and I should clarify. When I say platform, you literally come on here, and Tucker had a responsibility to call out the really, really crazy. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I was just going to get there.
You can have him on.
You personally,
that was a ridiculous interview. Why don't you just French kiss in front of everybody, for goodness sakes?
You should have pushed back and asked.
That's all. I mean, just a little pushback.
But just because he didn't, but you're not advocating that Tucker's not one of a conservative, because he's done a lot for the conservative movement, right?
Yes. I don't think that his actions when it comes to Israel, I don't think they're particularly conservative at all. But the idea that Tucker's not conservative is crazy. I think he has been quite conservative and probably more conservative.
Nuances? This is my point. These are the nuances. These are the nuances. Yes. And this is what, but George, I think this is an exercise that proved, for me at least, why it matters to me when if even someone that I don't support, as like Nick Fuentes, says something correct, that I acknowledge it. Not for him, for me.
Okay, my criticism
it's a credibility thing for me, that I can still I can see, I can visualize, I can recognize truth, even though it's coming from a bad source.
I love the statement you said on Wednesday about Candace, and that's where I'm at. You said, I don't agree with how she's doing it, but I like what she's doing.
I like what she's doing. I don't like how she's doing it.
So, to me, the same thing with Nick Fuentes. The other thing that I would mention about Nick Fuentes, because I like to watch that weirdo, right? But something about Nick Fuentes, I was telling Mario that I have a hard time explaining it in English, but I'll try, Nico. One of the things that the way Nick Fuentes speaks, he speaks in Gen Z, very young school, and I think sometimes, I don't know if because of our age, we don't get it. For example, when he said, women need to shut the up, right? Mm-hmm. He's saying it like how Gen Z talks, very dismissive of a lot of things. He's not saying that all women need to shut up. For example, last week we were talking about the predominantly white women that voted for Mandami in New York. He's saying, without saying it, those type of women need to stop voting. Yeah. That's what he's saying, but because he doesn't say it very correctly or technically correct.
Yeah, but he's not stupid. I mean,
no, he's not.
He knows he's got a platform of communication. Yeah. And if you don't read the room well, I criticize Trump for not reading the room.
Exactly.
Well. George and I may disagree with his tweet last night on Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'm no Marjorie Taylor Greene apologist. I thought that was I didn't agree with his.
Now let me ask you this: did that sound like he's canceling her? I'm not saying what it is. I'm saying how. Right. It sounds like he's going
to support a primary opponent against her.
Because he doesn't like her.
No, hold on a second.
Or he doesn't like a particular area.
There's other nuances there too that we got to give Trump some credit here, because this has been going on for a while, and she's been doing she's been saying and doing politically some crazy things that are not helpful to the party or the cause of the party, and certainly Trump's agenda. I mean, she was a huge critic of Trump's policy on Iran. Yeah. Which was a sound policy, invested in history, invested in reality. And she departed sharply from him on his interventionism in Iran.
What did she say?
She didn't think that we should be.
So is that wrong?
Leave alone.
Can she do that? Is she allowed to?
I remember I never said you couldn't.
I know that,
I'm just
brother.
Saying,
okay, so that you're analyzing. She has a different opinion. So because she's not a robot.
Okay, so he went after her politically.
I think she's wrong, by the way. I think his
so that's what he did. But I think
the strategy of Trump is wrong.
You have issues with Trump's rhetorical approach.
Well, you don't call someone a lunatic and then saying you're going to support a primary opponent. To me, that's not biblical. Call her, go Matthew 18, go to her, talk to her, have it out in private.
But she doesn't want to. I don't know. It's not that she's running for Congress again. She wants to run for Senate, and so that's a different issue. She's been after his support for a while. He's denied that support. He doesn't think that she has a chance. There's other issues, and she's been pushing him, and he's been blowing her off. I don't particularly care for Trump's rhetorical approach. Either. There are certain things. There are certain things about it that I really like. Other things about it I don't particularly care for. I don't know that he.
I feel like
the word
I
wacky.
feel the same way
He
about
called her
Nick.
wacky. I don't know that you need to do that. I think he made some valuable points. He has a right to withhold his endorsement.
I agree.
He has a right to do that, and has a reason for that. I think her going after the GOP during the shutdown was stupid and unhelpful, and doesn't really help party unity with a party that has struggled to unify around the good things, even the good things. This was a good thing to unify against, and she was out there making noise and being squeaky wheel.
That's kind of her MO, brother. I mean, she did that before when what's his face?
Anthony said, MTG finally is being real. Anthony, hello, everyone. Ernest says, just like a politician, to think somebody should be hinged. And you know what, the other thing, she's also a person that says that she's not going to take any AIPAC money, right? And not yet. I think a lot of people are also saying the same thing. They're concerned about the Jewish lobby inside the United States.
Except that being real, Nico, is overrated, especially when you're a real ass. In other words, for instance, LaHood in court was real. He was authentic, but he was also informed. That's the point. And that made it very valuable and helpful, and it advances things in the right direction. To just be real, I don't doubt that Nick Fuentes, well, sometimes I wonder, if I'm being fair, sometimes I think he's being opportunistic. In MTG, I don't know that she's being real. I think she's being opportunistic, it seems to me.
It seems?
Yeah, it seems to me that she's
an interesting... Look, I've not studied her. Like I said, I've been off the reservation for 4.5 weeks and really 5.5 in preparation for this trial. But she's a weird mix for me. I mean, she's always been that kind of pushback on the party.
Yeah,
probably well said.
I mean, this is nothing... For me, this is nothing new.
She came in like that.
Yeah, so I think she's been a little bit consistent. Yeah. I'm no fan. I don't like all the rhetoric. I don't like the yelling at people and the I like order. I like passion. I like order. But I don't know. I just don't like. I didn't like to see this split between Trump and Green, because I mean, and actually I think the little clips I saw of her being on The View, I thought was effective. I thought she was effective at bringing people over. That's the kind of stuff.
She had a conversation. Yeah. She had a conversation, something that we all like.
Saying, gosh, you weren't what I thought you were. Yeah. From that wacko, I mean, talk about wackos. I mean, Sonny saying that, I love that. I think that's how you move the needle, man. That's in my opinion.
So I'm neutral. I honestly don't know what it did for her, because it was weird.
I'm not worried about her. I'm worried about the movement.
Yeah. And we will be right back. And I think we're going to talk about, does America have talent? We need America's Got Talent worldwide. Well, other topics and, of course, the after show. Join us in our last break. You're watching Sidebar TV.
With reputations as respected high-level prosecutors in Bexar County, the attorneys of LaHood Norton Law Group bring invaluable practical knowledge from the other side of the aisle, using over 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome.
I'm Nico LaHood with LaHood Norton Law Group. Have you been arrested or accused of a crime? The LaHood Norton Law Group has the knowledge to defend you regardless of how small or large your case. In Bexar County, anywhere in the state, or even nationwide, we have the knowledge to defend you in federal or state court, no matter how small or large your case. We are trial lawyers with proven success.
Using their 70 years of combined experience to strategically advocate for their clients' rights and pursue the best possible outcome. The LaHood Norton Law Group. For a free consultation, call today, 210-797-7700. 210-797-7700. LaHoodNorton.com.
This is Nico LaHood. If you or a loved one has been arrested or accused of a crime, we can help.
LaHoodNorton.com.
It's 9:46 a.m. You're watching Sidebar TV. Thank you for watching. If you want to sponsor not only Sidebar, but R-Rated TV, if you have a company, a business, let us know. You can text us to 210-560-0180. Let me read a comment. Where do you think this came from? Speaking about anti-Semitism. And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do. A lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical open borders, neoliberal quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews, and now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened?
Can I tell you what my response to that?
No, wait. And it's not just the colleges. It's nonprofits, movies, and Hollywood. All of them. Time for you guys to wake up.
Okay. Who said that?
What do you think?
Who said that?
What do you think?
Who said that? Was it on public or what?
Yeah, Charlie Kirk.
Oh, Charlie Kirk. Okay. Well, look, I don't know. I need the proof. Charlie was credible to me, and so I want the proof that substantiates that. But then think about this. If Israel's worried about survival, and look, when you're surviving in a dogfight, you're going to do crazy stuff. So I give them a little bit of grace that, they've been, You have people around them that want them dead. Can we negotiate? Yeah, when you're dead, I'll negotiate. Oh, wow, that's interesting. So that's kind of the world they've been in. Again, not making excuses for them. But then I've heard that argument that Charlie made. Thanks for sharing that. But then think about the logic. Does that make sense that Israel wants to have open borders and ultimately destroy the United States, and the United States is their biggest supporter to keep them alive? That doesn't make any sense. It's like spiting your face for your nose or whatever that's common.
He's not saying that they want it. They say that they're funding it.
Why? Why would they fund open borders, knowing that open borders? And I'm not saying they're not. I don't know. I'm just asking, like Candace, just asking for a friend. So all I'm saying is, why would you support open borders, knowing that open borders was destroying
America.
and would destroy America, because you'd get these other ideologies that aren't constitutional republic and not American values in. It would ultimately have takeover of the country, like UK.
Yeah.
And then we're their biggest supporter. They're dead. It's a suicide mission. So I respect
Conspiracy
Charlie.
theorists will say that they want to destroy the nation from within so they can control it later on.
You're not going to control it because then the people that are going to take over want you dead. That makes no sense. So I want to destroy this country so I can take over. They didn't even take over Jordan and Egypt when they won.
Yeah.
When they won those wars, I mean, if you look at the geographical area, I'm just being objective.
Yeah.
Since 1948, 47, when Israel came back to being a state, the next day they're attacked. And then there's been multiple attacks, and we've talked about it on the show before. And then them winning these wars and these attacks, they actually took over land from Jordan and Egypt and this surrounding area. And then they gave them back in these supposed peace deals that were broken later on. But man, if you're trying to take over the world, you don't give land back, and you don't do it from the size of New Jersey. And then you don't destroy, if this theory is correct, the country that's keeping you alive, essentially, because they don't get our funding. I don't know how they survive. So I respect Charlie. I mean, I know he's with our Lord, but I don't know where he got that
How do you know?
from.
No, I'm joking. S.A. Prieston says,
hold on a second.
MTG says, Nick Fuentes and MTG are opportunistic monsters. You're right, George. That's what this guy says.
Well, I don't know if I'm right. It just seems that way. Look, Charlie Kirk, the man could use some context here, because Charlie had the same questions I have.
Yeah.
I've asked for years. Look, you asked Dennis Prager this question, and no one's more of an intense apologist for Israeli policy than Dennis Prager, and he's eloquent about it. I mean, he knows his facts, and it's a legitimate question, and he acknowledged a legitimate question. Why do so many Jews vote for things that are against their interests?
Yeah,
that's happened. Now, if anything, that actually dissolves the what did he call it? What did Nick Fuentes call it? Organized Jewry on Tucker Carlson. See, that's that anti-Semitic trope, the idea that there's a cabal when it's just defunct of facts. The reality is that many Jews vote against their own interests. They actually vote against the interests of Israel. And that's inexplicable to me.
Yeah.
There were a lot of Jews, most Jews, at least were on World War II, they were actually of the communist leaning.
Yeah.
You know? They supported Stalin and Marxist causes. Indeed, that's true.
Like the LGBT for Hamas, right?
Yeah. I mean, so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But then that actually goes against the argument that this is organized. There's nothing organized about it. So for every Jew you can find that's the head of a company, I can find a boatload more who aren't. Yeah. And so you can pick and choose all day long to drive a narrative. And my point is, if you are anti-Semitic, all I was saying before the other break was that you are inclined to do that without any objective analysis. That's one of the problems of anti-Semitism.
And my issue is, I think people can take the perception that if you question, this is the part that I like what Candace is doing. I don't like how she's doing it. I love questions.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yeah.
Number one, I love questions because it strengthens my position, and it gives me an opportunity that maybe I'm missing something and I want to know. Because I don't claim to know everything.
Yeah,
I know who does, and I submit myself to him, and it's not me. So I love, and even if I know you're asking a stupid question, I still think you have the right. You have the right to ask a stupid question.
Yeah.
And in the arena of free thinking and free ideas, we'll put you where you belong with a stupid question.
Right.
That's what I believe.
And while I think rhetorical questions are useful devices in argumentation, I think they're also exceptionally manipulative. They can be. And so Candace asks a lot of rhetorical questions. Oh, glad you asked. Nobody's asking, or maybe 8 people are. And it becomes 18 people and 38 people. That's my point. This is the power of suggestion. When you have a platform like that, you create your own demand.
Yeah.
And you can't just say, no, you don't. Sure you do. This is how it works. It's a perpetual self-inflation machine that I think in the end is being done around something that is fundamentally evil, like the questioning of Hitler's evil.
Yeah.
That in essence is
Nico, you know what I like and hate about the GOP infighting, right? Because the Democrats or the left, when they agree with something, everybody agrees. Like, hey, tomorrow we're going to...
Fetterman,
Yeah, exactly. Fetterman.
I like Fetterman.
Exactly.
You do.
You've grown to love him, right?
I like him.
He's an interesting guy. Like, you want to give him a hug. It just... But anyway, so the left, when they decide something, hey, guys, tomorrow we're going to eat poop with sprinkles. All right, everybody on it, right?
Yeah.
The Republicans are very independent, self-thinkers, which is a good thing.
It is.
But because of that, they fight.
Sure.
And it's like, it's a good thing.
But what point is, I would always encourage Republicans or conservatives, what are you fighting about and what are you fighting with? Right? So here's my point. What are you fighting about? Identify the issue. And what are you fighting with? What principles are we supposed to be surrounded around that are gonna anchor us? I always make that. I have a statement from Thomas Jefferson that a jury trial is what is the best thing invented by man to anchor us to the principles of the Constitution. Because when government gets out of control, and they do, investigators, and the trial by jury is the only thing that anchors us back to those principles. So what I challenge Republicans: what are you fighting with? What are you anchored into? And I think that's where we lose our way. Because here's the bottom line for me. Don't forget your thoughts, Salo. The bottom line for me is why I want to engage the Nick Fuentes, the Candace, why this has to happen, and why we need to have this spirited debate is because Seattle just voted in Katie Wilson, a 43-year-old open socialist who lives off her parents. And Seattle, Washington voted her in.
She's that woman I was talking about last week about the pizza and
absolute insanity. Yes,
truly. Yeah.
And then Mandami was voted in. Mandami, whatever the hell his name is. I mean, who's just talking about? I mean, just his ideas are absolutely insane. All I'm saying is that's why I think this is important. And so for Bill O'Reilly or anybody to just dismiss people that are you take away votes, like you take away that Nick Fuentes, Candace Owen influence and Charlie Kirk influence, Trump doesn't win. Trump doesn't win. I don't know. Show me a poll where he wins without him going on podcasts, without him engaging the youth, without Charlie doing what he did in the universities. He doesn't win.
That's why.
Can you imagine this country if he didn't win?
And George, to your point, that's why I am also concerned with the Candace situation, because not everybody, a big chunk of people, you see the Turning Point podcast, you see the comments in there, and you're like, man, those were Charlie's people, those were Trump's people. But now you got a Candace and a Nick Fuentes and a Tucker Carlson, and I think they're moving the needle somehow, somewhere, and it's kind of delicate.
I'm not suggesting they shouldn't be engaged. I'm not suggesting any of that. All I'm saying is if you're going to platform someone, you don't do what Tucker Carlson did. That's all. It's irresponsible. I mean, these people need to be engaged and to be challenged because a lot of what they're saying is not just wrong, it's just patently wrong, but it's also destructive. Because, getting back to Gen Z, this is a particularly vulnerable, mush-headed generation. I'm sorry, it's
That'll
true.
win them over. Yeah, good job. Yeah.
Bro, you know what's interesting?
Somewhere, he meant that with all due respect, fixes everything, right?
I know. I like with all due respect, what you always say. With no respect. Look, I get it. I don't know if there's a nice way to say that.
Yeah.
We've said it in other ways here. People are graduating. I mean, reports almost weekly. People are graduating without basic skills in anything, from remedial math to reading. So we have a particularly ignorant generation that I think is being exploited in the worst possible ways by this cabal.
Yeah.
Led by people like Fuentes. All right. Getting back to the other topic. Can I quote Charlie Kirk now as soon as you're ready?
Okay.
On the next
Nico
topic.
and George, please sit down with a rabbi or two to deepen your understanding of Jews, especially conservative rabbi and Orthodox rabbi. Hold on, somebody said, there's always a massacre with Israel. They're always stealing. They're a stealing nation.
But what do we need to sit down with a rabbi for? To learn what? What do I need to be learning? I'm just asking. I mean, I'm not anti or pro. I'm pro Jesus. I'm pro truth. I do support Israel. We should support Israel, but that doesn't mean we can't criticize Israel.
I agree. I don't get the point.
I don't know what I need to sit down with a rabbi for. I mean, I've sat down with plenty of them. Maybe they need to sit down with me. I don't know. I'm just saying. It goes both ways.
I've talked to quite a few rabbis. I'm originally from the tri-state area in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware, and had occasion. I had lots of professors who were Jewish. I grew up with a ton of Jewish kids, and I don't see any of the issues that this lunacy is perpetrating. None of it. I never saw it. So I have I have 20 years of growing up in an area where there's plenty of Jews, and I don't see any of these issues. But then geopolitically, I certainly don't see them either. So I don't get it. I don't get the question.
My question is, what is their goal? Like, what is Candace and Nick's goal? I mean, because if they keep creating this split without trying to have people reconcile around truth and the way they're doing it, and
that's a better way to say it than I said it. But that's also the question.
We're going to lose the midterm. And then there you go. And then it's going to be nothing but impeachments and this and that because we're going to lose the House. And then what? Then you lose 28 or maybe come back and rebound. I think the challenge for America is we keep having this ping pong in our politics. Ping pong politics is hurting us because you got Russia and China. They're like, I've been here for 20 years and I just got to wait out 3 more years.
They're playing the long game.
They're playing the long game. Donald.
Probably, you said a lot of important things. That's probably the most important thing I would say. This ping pong. It's perpetually ping pong and social media enables it because there's no closure. What closes a conspiracy on social media? Answer: boredom. So you got to wait for people to get bored before they move on to something else, which actually perpetuates this machine of coming up with the next stupid thing to say. And then it just goes on and on and on. I don't think that's productive. But you seem keen on quoting Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you're ready for the next topic, but please.
Read it.
No, you read it.
This is the social compact breaking down. We need urgency to restore it. Charlie Kirk. Mass deportations. Stop the H-1B scam. Dramatically reduce legal immigration and chain migration. Oh, same thing Nick Fuentes would say. And chain migration and the visa lottery. Build 10 million homes for Americans. Crush the college cartel. Nick Fuentes says the same thing in a different way.
It's a different topic. So he's not wrong about. He can't possibly. I don't know anybody.
What? He's not wrong about everything.
I never said he was. Never said he was.
That's all.
I never. And I told you, and you know, you just like I know you're not a fan of MTG. I've never said anyone's right. Like I said, the devil's right about certain things.
Yeah.
Right. He's right about.
But his intent is bad.
He's exactly. Yeah. He's correct.
And some pastors too.
Yeah. Like I said, and he's also very real. The devil's pretty authentic.
Now look, guys. Now we're gonna talk about H-1B1 visas on the after show, the midterm.
And notice he says dramatically reduce legal immigration too.
Well, we'll talk about it all. We'll take questions. We'll argue a little bit. Maybe yell. People can freak out. Thanks for joining us, guys. Thank you, Salo, for stepping in for Karen. You don't look like her at all. You definitely don't sound like her.
Join us in the after show.
We're gonna call ICE, and Salo's gonna be gone. Bye, guys. God bless you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.
The preceding show was paid for by the LaHood Norton Law Group. The views and opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily represent those of WOAI and iHeartMedia.
I think we're live. Mic's on. Oh, yeah.
Check,
Perfect.
check. All right.
And we're back. Thank you for watching. We're in the after show where anything can happen.
That's right. That's true. Now this is when people show up for this.
Hey, Nico, I heard you several times say this because I heard this from several people in regards to Mandami in New York. I've had a lot of people, Christian people, having struggles saying, well, I hope they get what they voted for. As a Christian, you don't want to say that. But then there's this thing like, they need to learn, like, you know how your parents used to do? That's how you'll learn?
Yeah, and to me in Luke 15, when the prodigal son or the lost son goes out, I think I'm reading into this part, but I think it's natural. He knew what was going to happen. He says, well, you're going to get what you're going to find out. It's a principle of seed time and harvest. You know, people want to say it's karma. That's really a biblical principle. It's seed time. You sow good seed, you're going to reap a good harvest. You sow shitty seed, you're going to reap a shitty harvest. And so when you say, I don't hope that, because I don't want to lose New York City to an Islamic theocracy. Because that's what's going to happen. Look at Dearborn, Michigan. Look at the UK. I mean, people really need to wake up to this Islamic movement, and as George says, the Islamization, whatever, of the United States and all Western countries and environment. Look, I mean, Syria used to be Christian. Egypt, Jordan. And whether you're a Christian or not, I promise you the atheists will flourish under Christian ideology more than Islamic ideology. I promise you that. I mean, we have test studies, we have history, we have facts, we have reality. We can see it right now. I mean, you can see this. So I think, I don't want to lose New York, and so I don't say that. I don't say good. I hope they do. It doesn't affect my life. Yeah, until Minneapolis falls, which I almost did. Until L.A. Until this, and then it's going to do this, and then close in. They're like, you don't have to worry about it. Don't worry about New York. Yeah, you don't worry about that. How many more cities you have in the United States? Yeah, don't worry about that. And then little by little, these cities fall.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal to me, and so it's unfortunate. I just hope that they wake up quick and vote his ass out.
H-1B. Charlie Kirk was concerned about it, right? Also, as Nick Fuentes is, America first.
Yeah, right. I mean, this. I don't know if you guys saw the Ingram. I
saw a
the
clip
Ingram
of it. I
interview
didn't
with Trump.
watch it. No,
It's
I saw a
really
clip.
sort of what.
That's where it came from.
What gave new, I'm going to say new legs to this, because we talked about H-1B here. Is at least 6 months ago, maybe, and at that time it involved Elon Musk and that kind of thing. So I didn't think it really went away. But yeah, exactly. Vivek weighed in, and it was a bit of a shitstorm. Anyway, Trump was in an interview with Laura Ingram, and she brought up. I was trying to bring up the actual interview here because I want to make sure I got the words right. But she asked him during, and it was an exclusive interview.
Oh yeah,
And she asked about the H-1B visa thing, and she said, look, I mean, we were inclined to believe that this would be a big priority for your administration. And she said, quote, because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers. And Trump says, well, I agree. But you also do have to bring in talent because America's got talent, right?
We're talentless.
So,
we're talentless.
He said, we have people. He said, and Ingram said, we have plenty of talented.
And what did he say?
People here.
We don't.
No, we don't.
No, you don't. No, you don't. We don't. And she goes, we don't have talent. It's why context matters. We don't have talented people here. And he says, you don't have certain talents. And people have to learn.
That makes it better. That makes it better.
This is interesting because, I mean, there's, again, a little bit of truth, a little bit of, a little bit, I don't know what, because it's a very different, I want the Trump back I want the 2016 Trump on this. He says, you don't have certain talents, people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you in a factory where we're going to make missiles. And then Ingram says, well, how did we ever do it before?
Yeah.
When you and I were growing up. And then he went and gave, I think, a rather kind of lame example. He was talking about a Hyundai plant in Georgia, and it led to thousands of arrests of Korean workers. And then he says, and he goes, without those foreign workers, quote, making batteries and teaching people how to do it, the U.S. couldn't produce batteries, and Americans apparently lack the basic and necessary skills. Now, that raises other questions about education, which he should have talked about.
But didn't Trump have a different opinion on this before?
He most certainly did.
I mean, so
in 2016.
Is this thing on right? Yeah, everybody's good. That's my issue. I mean, what changed his opinion? It just makes me think that someone's in his ear.
Yeah. I think it's sorry for coming back to the Nick Fuentes guy. He says things like whatever. So when Trump says we don't have talent, and he goes, no, we don't. I understand what he's saying, but the way it sounded is like, nah, America's talentless. So that's what people hear, and that's what people are communicating, and that's what alarms people online and say, well, Trump said that America doesn't have any talent. He's not saying that, but that's how it sounded.
Thank you, and that's an important statement. That is solid. It's important qualifier, and he's just wrong. I mean, it's a crock of shit to suggest that there aren't plenty of Americans that have those skills. The reality is that the H-1B was weaponized against them and used as justification to not give them jobs. It's well documented. It's been going on for years. In fact, Trump championed the issue with people who are much more eloquent about it on the economy side. But it's not just him. It's Kristi Noem.
Look at what MTG said. Texted this morning, X this morning. 70% of H-1B visas go to India. 10 to 15% go to China. 80% are entry-level jobs that should be going to young Americans. Our own people are being pushed out of tech, medicine, and every major industry.
Completely correct.
Yeah, she's right.
100% correct. Then I mentioned off break, by the way, same guy who was criticizing MTG a few minutes ago. She's absolutely spot on about this, 100%. But here's what Kristi Noem says, Nico, and this doesn't help, I think. Quote, under the Trump administration, we've sped up our process and added integrity to the visa programs, to visa cards, to all of that. But also more people are becoming naturalized under this administration than ever before. More people are becoming citizens because we're making sure these individuals are here for the right reasons. With sincere respect, to Secretary Noem, the last thing we effing need is more paperwork Americans at this time. Really. And we have a true assimilation problem. And I don't really care that they're here for economic reasons. Good for them, but there's plenty of Americans. We need to really shore up jobs for our people.
George,
and prosperity for our people, and recognize that that connects the national sovereignty.
George, I know that sometimes you almost vomit when you hear the phrase, diversity is our strength, right? Right? Diversity is our strength. That's a weird phrase, but anyway. Are you at a point where some comedian, I heard a comedian the other day say, I love diversity, but not right now. I'm done with diversity. We need to stop everybody at the border. We have enough of everybody, so many colors, so many flavors. Let's just work. Let's start working with what we're at. He says, but some people are not going to allow it. Are you there? Are you there that, like, let's just stop the influx right now? Let's fix our home first.
Yes. And I've said that before. I think we actually should.
I think that's
we
what
allow
Americans
1.4, 1.5 million. Nico?
I think Americans said that in their voting this last time.
100%.
Again, that's Nick Fuentes. He says it wrong, but that's what he's saying.
But this is my point, to say everything he says is not wrong.
Got it. Okay.
And that's why I don't want to dismiss him. I can acknowledge that. So to George's question earlier, it was like, well, I think it's for credibility. If I'm trying to persuade this group of people and I don't acknowledge truth from someone that I disagree with, well, these people are like, you're just a truth denier. You're not speaking for truth. He's advocating something that's true. So to me, it's about the audience. That's why I'm the way I am, that I want to acknowledge truth. But then I'm also, and this I think is Tucker's criticism of Tucker, which I agree with, he should have pushed back more.
Yeah.
If Tucker would have said, look, I'm going to give him free, I don't think that's appropriate, but that's he can do what he wants. And he can say whatever he wants.
You know what Tucker said in another interview about that interview with Nick Fuentes? He said this, well, people don't know the way he talks. Well, people don't know. I'm starting a conversation. That's what he said. And I'm like, if that's a strategy, because he knows Nick Fuentes is going to have a lot of eyeballs on him, he's going to have a lot of influence, I think he's playing the long game too. I'd rather have a conversation like Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly on that conversation with Tucker and Nick and all that stuff, I think she was playing it real smart. I'm like, I'm not criticizing Candace. I'm listening to Tucker. Ben, you're a weirdo. But let's talk.
Ben is a weirdo.
Yeah, it is a weirdo. Oh, man, poor guy.
And there's another one that he makes great arguments for conservatism.
Yeah.
But
a moment.
There's two issues though. There's the issue of H-1B and its abuses.
Yeah.
There's that issue, and then there's the issue of whether we should even have people coming into this country at this point on the argument that we need them. My position is that we don't need the H-1B visa program. Wow. We don't need to be importing any more people at this time. Legal or no, not at all. I'm saying as it is now, or even close as it is now. Because notice she said we've added integrity to the visa programs, to green cards, to all of that, but also more people are becoming naturalized, so they're using it to continue to bring people in. Remember, I said if there's a particular skill, and I'll give you an example, in the 1930s that would have applied. Wow. Albert Einstein. How many Einsteins do you think there were at the time? Very few. I mean, Niels Bohr is a close second, but Albert Einstein. That's a really good reason to employ an H-1B gateway to bring someone in. Okay, but I'm just saying. It has to be very surgical to meet a particular need. That indeed. But then when you do, what do you do when you bring them in? Well, what did Einstein do? What university did he teach at? Princeton. He was a professor, and he was sharing the wealth, sharing the knowledge, building up other future theoretical physicists. So my point is that you got to be surgical about it. Nico, if we don't have the education and training, then let's build it up.
But I'm not. I agree. But I definitely agree with that. But I want to. How do you reconcile? Because you have been a very appropriate critic of our academia, and how it's just destroyed us and indoctrination, and we're dumb as shit. Whatever. Blah, blah.
Yes.
So then, how do you take that position that academia has failed us for decades now, and then say we have plenty of people that are smart right now? I think the answer is
maybe philosophically. He's talking about philosophically.
No, I know he is, but there's still a practical consequence to the fact that I think he's right. By the way, I'm not disagreeing with him. I'm just saying if that's a truism, if that's true, and our academia has failed us, which we know. I mean, I think that objectively we can talk about that. Then how can you say that and believe that? And
that's an excellent question.
And then still
I've
not
always,
say,
but I have, well, maybe not always, but routinely carved out a caveat for the natural sciences. There's only so much twisting that you can do to 2 + 2 being 4. You know, it's a little tough to drive a woke agenda inside a conversation about substrate level phosphorylation in biology. It is what it is.
Yeah, but
so I'm saying in the
biology, what are you talking about? Men are not men, women are women, sex.
I should have said more like biochemistry. But this actually is a running joke. This is why I graduated in chemistry, because I had a professor who used to he did this year after year, organic chem 1, 2, 3, and the first thing he would say is, "How many biologists are in here? First day of school."
I think you guys create
2-3 people would raise their hand and be like, "Now's your chance to get out of here."
Yeah. I think
you can't memorize your way through this. But the point is, in critical thinking, natural science departments, tech, computer science, coding, it's harder to bring in the woke agenda. Where I've been critical, as you know, is really inside civics. Sociology and psychology.
Math is racist now. What are you talking about? We just got finished with that. And then biology is not biology. And then what's your gender versus your sex? I mean,
I'm not saying they're not trying. I'm just saying
they were successful. If it wasn't for this last election,
Sid, look at Sid's comment. Once upon a time, we called and celebrated the melting pot. Problem now is that there's no pot. Everything is separate, and each is demanding what they believe are their rights when they don't even believe on what founded this country.
Well, see, Saulo, isn't that the point I made on Wednesday with Sidebar?
Yeah.
I mean, with R-rated Christianity with Mo and Marquise. The melting pot is a concept that we all agree with the pot that we're melting into. We agree on this set of ideas and principles.
You gotta like the pot you're in.
The what?
You gotta acknowledge and like the pot you're
why
in.
are you going to get in a pot if you don't like it? I mean, unless you have an objective to change the pot.
But I would say there is a pot. We're just not melting, right? Which is what you're saying.
Fair enough.
There's not enough melting. We got a pot. Now, there is a question about it at some point after not melting enough, what happens to the damn pot?
Yeah,
but,
it breaks.
But here's Vance on this. This is interesting. There's clearly, this is why I said, I think Vance in many cases is more MAGA than Trump.
Hold on. Quote, somebody said, at minimum, there should be a deodorant requirement.
Oh, for goodness. Well, I don't know that I'm going to argue that.
That's too philosophical for my paper. Continue.
Quote, this idea that American citizens don't have the talent to do great things, that you have to import a foreign class of servants and professors to do these things, I just reject that. End of quote.
Well, that's directly against Trump. That's interesting.
It is. I know. So I'm saying in some cases, I think.
But see, this is my point. I think that's healthy. I think there's a strategy in not having their vice president, your president, not have a unified front. I think that's kind of problematic. But the point is Trump has changed his position. So that's not Vance's fault. That's Trump's fault.
Yeah.
Because Trump has changed his position. Yeah. I think, has he not, Trump?
I don't think. I would say yes. It seems
because that's what him and Elon got in their site, and Vivek over. Because Trump's like, get them all out. We got plenty here, and then Vivek and Elon are saying, no, we don't. In this certain area, we don't. Yeah. So this is interesting to me. What's going on with Trump? Why did he change his position?
But then the other thing, Nico, you said somebody's in Trump's ear, right?
Well, I mean,
I think it's so true because he's making these arrangements with different countries, and he's making arrangements on business, industry. Who's he going to bring? Who's going to take out? And I think he's thinking about that. He's like, man, I just made a deal with China. I just made a deal with these guys, and I need to bring a percentage in. So I need to have this law in place. So, yes, we don't have talent here because I want to get those people in a couple of months.
Well, let me go back to what Nico said and tie it to what you just said. Here's Trump in 2016 when he's talking about visas. They're very, very bad for our workers. And it's unfair for our workers, and we should end it. End of quote.
That Trump or Nick Fuentes?
That's Trump.
Oh, it's Trump. Okay, sorry.
Trump.
Just
he's got a tattoo on his lower back and make Nick Fuentes.
I didn't realize that Nick Fuentes was your North Star.
Yeah. I mean, Candace, Selena, and then Nick Fuentes.
Italia. Okay. Look, we have.
And you agree with that, George?
Report after report over the last 18 months. I mean, when did Vivek come out with his post? I've lost track. Maybe a year ago. It was in the aftermath of the election, actually. Yeah. It was less than a year ago. And there were some excellent reports that were put out by the Federalist at the time. There were some great reports by the Spectator, others by even Breitbart, that actually thoroughly documented how there were, by the hundreds of thousands, people with degrees in physics and computer science, people who are very able, even in software science, and they had come out, sort of come out of a very different way, but they had come out and complained that they were passed over for opportunities, that they weren't hired. They had documentation. There were open lawsuits saying that, look, because I happen to be white, I wasn't hired because I'm male. Check, I'm white, and who knows? I may have checked off that I was a Christian. Now there goes my intersectionality.
Yeah.
So, and they were passed over, and there's tons and tons and tons of examples happening. This is the issue, and then I don't. Trump used to kind of be a champion of that injustice, and it's like he's
But
not
why?
making those nuanced
But
arguments.
why?
I think Salo has a point. Yes, you just heard that. Salo has a point.
He's making too many arrangements.
I think Salo is a point. I think there's enough people around him who I think Kristi Noem isn't helping. I mean, what she said was I think wrong. I don't think it was terribly informed. I think she minimizes the kinds of things that Marjorie Taylor Greene are emphasizing. The fact that Americans have been hurt by this.
Here's because you have people that analyze this last election recently.
Yes.
That Republicans got trounced and this, and yeah, you can make the excuses we were blue cities or whatever, but you can see the actual percentage of people that voted, and people are voting more left in this last cycle. That's what worries me. I don't like. I think what doesn't help this country is we have emotional voters instead of principled voters. Like, let me tell you this.
Yeah.
Unless the GOP and the Republican Party changes their platform on the principles they stand on, I'm always going to lean that way, except when it comes to the courthouse.
Yeah.
I told you that already.
Yeah.
When it comes to county and district court judges, that none of that applies. When it comes to, DA positions should be nonpartisan. There are certain positions should be nonpartisan. Sheriff, all that crap. But unfortunately, but you're still going to vote with your principles. When someone, how can you support this person? It's not. I'm not supporting the person so much. I'm supporting the principles the person is supposed to be representing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens.
Yeah.
But when you have this section of people, because you have people that are going to vote Democrat no matter what, you have people that are going to vote Republican no matter what. It's really this section in the middle to talk about why I acknowledge truth, because I'm trying to persuade. I'm trying to move the needle and making sure that I don't lose credibility because it's just because I don't like somebody that I can't acknowledge truth. And I think that's not helpful.
And I think I rushed to a response, and your comment there helped me to realize it. It's not just the principles, is it? It's the perception of how you implement them.
Yep.
Because I think you said, but why? But why? And we talked about it a couple of months ago, and I forgot about it, and it just came to mind as you were explaining what you were explaining. I think immigration has a lot to the way that ICE has gone about going after illegal aliens in the country, and the way the media has spun it. Because a lot of it, I think, has been unearned criticism. Some of it has, because I think there should have been people out there communicating what ICE is doing. And I think this is part of the White House's problem messaging that you and I have talked about. Even on Epstein, same criticism that I have. There's been issues that have become big blobs.
Yeah.
That the White House, I think, hasn't helped because their messaging has been either non-existent or rather poor. And I think the media, there's been, and this is now, it's showing out in polling, there's been Hispanics that strongly supported Trump that have been backing off their support because they see the sort of arm of implementation against illegal immigration as being too heavy-handed. Now, I don't think that's the case. I don't think it's been too heavy-handed. But I think it's been, in many cases, only until recently have I seen any kind of reasonable communication
George,
coming from the ICE office.
And
You
George,
can't just have Tom Homan out there. You got to have other people.
Well, I haven't seen Tom Homan in a long time.
Oh, that's true. To your point, George, my concern with Nick Fuentes and Candace and others is that they appeal to emotional people too, they're going to destroy the GOP from the inside, just creating emotional voters.
Yes, that's my.
Yeah.
Then what is? That's why I wish I could talk to Candace and Nick. What are you trying to accomplish?
Yeah.
Tell me, because then I can deal with you. I can contend with you differently.
Yeah.
And that's where I would like Tucker to. I think Tucker should have had him on if he was going to have that kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Nick? Welcome on the show. You and I disagree on a lot of things. Hopefully we can talk about some of the things we disagree on. But I want people to hear from you. I want to hear from you because I want to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding. Because I have a perception of you. What is you? Tell me who Nick Fuentes is. What do you stand for? But I'm going to push back, and I want you to push back on me. That's a different platforming. That's a different. Not that Nick Fuentes needed Tucker's platform. He's bigger than Tucker, I think. But I'm just saying it's why it comes across like he's supporting him. I want to know, Nick, what are you trying to accomplish? You say you're a Christian, but only Catholics can be saved, which you're a fucking idiot. But okay, whatever. But you say you're a Christian, you say you're for America first, you say all these things, you're a conservative, although you think racism is okay, and that's the conservative value, which is wrong. So you say all these things. What are you trying to accomplish? Yeah. Candace, what are you trying to accomplish? I just want the truth. Okay, but in the pursuit of truth, are you destroying what you
What's
think
the end
you
game?
love?
What's the end game? Yeah.
What do you love? What are you trying to accomplish? Tell me what you're trying to accomplish. For me, I wanted to accomplish anything less than 3 acquittals for those 3 men was not a win for me.
Yeah.
It would have been better that you had a better and worse results, but it would not have been a win. It didn't matter what I thought. It didn't matter what I don't think we got to make the best decision for the team because that's my goal. So I had a goal. I'm a goal-oriented person. And in that goal, it doesn't mean that I compromise my principles in that process because I'm not going to win at all costs. But what are you trying to accomplish? And I don't know what Nick and Candace are trying to accomplish.
Sometimes I get excited and I get scared with Nick because he says he used to be pro MAGA like nobody.
He says MAGA's dead.
Yeah, well he was so pro MAGA, like he was so pro like nobody else. But now he's like MAGA is dead. Now it's America first. I like that sentiment a little bit, right? But then that is going to destroy MAGA from within. It could. Because the next generation is going to be voting, and the next generation.
But what does it mean, America first? Again, it's down.
He's tired of the Jews. Right now, he's about the Jews. He's talking about too many people coming in immigration. Well, George, look, Alamo Talk is agreeing with you. Why go to work when you can be a TikTok famous? That's the mentality of our future generations. No, we don't have the talent, and I'm not sure we ever will. Alamo Talks, man.
Look at you,
man.
I don't.
Still waiting for my lunch.
I take issue. With the notion that Nick Fuentes is a conservative. I don't think he's a conservative. I mean, you've got left-wing people that on occasionally say conservative things. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania said some conservative-leaning things.
What is a conservative to you?
I was going to ask the same thing.
Conservative to you?
2 or 3 points that make somebody conservative.
Well, just give me the definition and then make your point.
When Nick Fuentes told people to vote for Kamala Harris, that didn't sound conservative to me.
No, I said, what's a conservative? I get that.
I think a conservative, a person who is an American conservative, seeks to, politically and otherwise, support America as founded principles. The constitutional order, the Bill of Rights, the principles of the Declaration of Independence, a strong national pride, a strong sovereignty, which is people, language, borders. I think, and certainly when going back to my first point about America as founded, also someone who supports the philosophical basis for the founding of America, which is decidedly Judeo-Christian in nature. And so there ought to be a support for that, and there ought to be an effort to advance that, and a knowledge and an understanding and embracing of those principles. So I don't know, and then so that's people, borders, and culture. That's
Nico, you know what I think the problem is?
Good definition.
You used to make a reference to that Airplane, the movie.
Oh, that's a funny ass.
Remember the scene where the 2 black people are having a conversation
in Jive?
Yeah, Jive. Yeah. And then the white lady comes in and
Jive turkey don't have no chub in that. Mama, don't give him a rap. That was a great movie.
Okay, somebody's interpreting.
Surely you can't be serious. I am serious, and don't call me Shirley. That was old school humor, man.
Bro. Okay.
And you don't watch movies. That tells people.
That tells you the last time I watched a movie.
Nico. I think that's the same thing with Nick Fuentes. He's saying some things. I think somebody needs to come in and just put a filter on what he's saying, how he's saying it.
But it's more than just how he's saying it. It's what he believes. If he believes racism is okay, if he believes women should be subjugated, he's Islamic. Then if he thinks that you have to be Catholic to be saved, which I think he's got some philosophical problems. There's more than just how he's saying. So, like I tell you, it's what he's doing versus how he's doing it.
He talks like a group messenger sometimes. That you're joking
I don't care about that. Look how he talks. I mean, shit. I don't. That doesn't bother me. I don't give two shits. I care about. I care about what he's saying, not how he's saying it. How he says it doesn't matter to me. It's what he's saying matters to me.
But I don't think you're listening. Again, I'm saying that we're not hearing what he's saying because of how he's saying it.
But I'm not emotional that way. I mean, you know me. I mean, I'm listening to him. I mean, racism is not okay.
Okay, let me read something.
Is it okay? Answer the question.
It's not okay.
Okay, then you don't like Nick Fuentes. No, he said it. Saulo, don't do that. Don't shine his nuts with your ideas. He's saying that. He said, I heard him myself. I saw the video. He said racism is okay. He said it. That's not okay. That is a character flaw. He's rotten.
You're gonna hate me saying this.
Okay, say it.
But that's what he said. But that's not what he's saying.
Brother.
Exactly. I know. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Doug says this. America's not
He's
the
saying
only.
You're taking him out of context.
Well, so that's like me. That's like me stealing all the money from your account. I stole the money from your account, but I'm not stealing the money from your account, so don't be mad at me. Don't call the cops.
It's not stealing.
Come on, man.
I'm borrowing.
But hold on a second. But I mean, yes.
Don't forget your thought.
But he's not conservative. Just to be clear about that. I mean, a person that, I want to go back to that. He expresses admiration for Adolf Hitler. Nothing conservative about that. He expresses admiration for Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin was communist. That's not conservative. I mean, he says he's going to destroy MAGA. Like I said, he said repeatedly to vote for Kamala Harris. That doesn't sound conservative to me. What am I missing? This man is not conservative. He's a charlatan. He's an opportunistic fool. But because he's talking to an impressionable audience that knows even less
But
than
we
he
still have
does.
to, you still have to contend with him, though.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I know that. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
But you have to be content.
Doug says America is not the only country with talent. We should bring talent in from everywhere, anywhere we can find, just like the NBA does. That's Doug says. Thank you, Doug. Cynthia, thank you for watching. Sydney, Diane.
Yeah, let's go
Debbie.
after it if we need it. That's all we're saying. Go after it if we need it. But if we don't need it, why go after it?
I think sometimes, Nico and George, like that H-1B, oh man, it was a good idea back then. Let's start something new. Because I think we're contending, we're fighting for it. I'm like, you know what? Let's break it apart. Let's start something new, because the argument is never going to end.
How about the old new?
Well, look, I'm not for mainstream medicine. So I mean, I'm not saying it's no need, but I mean, how many doctors are American?
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, there's all kinds of different, which is fine if they're the best one to work on your loved one. If there's a surgery, trauma, we're great at trauma. We're not good at healthcare. Healthcare sucks in this country. Trauma, we're great at. Healthcare, we suck at. But regardless,
great example.
You know, but I mean, how many doctors are American?
Great example.
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
It's
we
well
have stupid
documented.
people.
The American Medical Association
Yeah,
and
man.
medical schools across the country have diluted their standards for woke reasons, for quota reasons. That's well documented.
My goodness. Okay, before we
Google
end,
it.
before we end. So,
Hey, hold on a second. Question. Nick Fuentes, in the aftermath of the recent election, was not celebrating, but gloating that MAGA lost the election.
In those
How
last,
is that
this last rounds,
conservative?
this last round.
Yes. How is that conservative? I don't understand how that helps. I don't know.
Salo.
I might be missing. I might be missing.
I'm gonna have to
something.
sell my Nick Fuentes shirt.
And you have to.
I gotta remove that
and you better
tattoo.
laser that tattoo off your lower back.
Anyway,
What
so
are the questions?
Okay,
The
no,
questions,
no.
comments?
Before we end the program, we got to talk to the lover of polls, not the dancing
hey.
pole. Not the dancing pole. Polls. Their new study says that Bible reading among U.S. adults surges, but fewer people believe what they're reading. How could that be in a poll, George? That fewer believe it?
Because they look at the Bible as a suggestion, like a philosophical.
But she says, I understand more people are reading it. You can measure that. But can you measure that less people believe it?
Yeah. By how they live, how they answer questions, how they vote, everything.
So
Sure.
through a poll, we can see that?
Yeah. Yes, we can, because they ask. Barna did the research, and they've also done a bunch of research. And by the way, it's part of a state of theology.
That wire's like a
no
web.
idea, man.
What the?
He's being attacked. It's China. He's being
The
attacked.
Jews.
The
It's the
Jews.
Jews that get him.
Yeah, I do. I think
That's a Jewish.
I think it's
yeah.
Bibi. It's Bibi. And Nico knows this well, but there's been at least 15 years of polling history, not just from Pew Research, but from Gallup, but primarily from Barna. Recently, under Arizona Christian University, they've partnered with the Faith and Culture Research Center over there. Lots of data on this, Salo, and they converge these polls legitimately because they're talking about neighboring issues. So there's been a surge in the number of people that are reading the Bible. And by the way, it's not particularly high. It's just higher than it was a few years ago. It's something like 50%. That's not that high.
Yeah.
But it's higher than 35 and 40. So there's been a surge of interest in reading the Bible. The problem is that more and more people are not believing the theological propositions of the Bible. And they believe that the Bible's a book of folklore. Or they don't believe necessarily, as we mentioned in here, some of the major theological claims about Christology, that Jesus was in fact the Son of God. They believe that he was the first and perhaps the greatest created being, but he is not God's Son. You know, and then let's get into the Holy Spirit, and the idea that the Holy Spirit is a force, like a Star Wars view of the Holy Spirit, but not necessarily that he's a person and a Godhead. So basic Christian tenets that they would reject when reading the Bible. The Bible's a collection of ancient stories, but it's not actually historically true in most of them, or some of them, and on and on and on and on. So so when when we say more people read the Bible, it doesn't necessarily bring me comfort for that reason.
Well, I mean, I'd rather them read it than not read it. So at least, because then all you have to do is explain things to them versus, expose them to it. I think exposure is one thing, and then convincing and persuading them after that exposure is another. So I'd rather them read it. Look, I mean, the bottom line is, look, we're going to feel the effects of Charlie's passing for time to come. He was a force, and I mean, for young people, I'm focused on young people right now, and just people in general. I mean, he was a force for political arguments, for debates, for persuasion, and for a biblical worldview, Christian apologist. And so, You know, it's going to be felt, and I don't see Turning Point USA lasting much longer.
Me neither.
I mean, it's going to last. It's going to keep dwindling because they
But
don't
not
have
the same ethos. It's not going to have the same ethos.
Well, no, it just the culture is different. I mean, I don't think Erica Kirk should be the president.
No.
She's not. I mean, look, poor thing. She's mourning. She's a widow. She's a mommy. I mean, she can be an advisor on the board, do something, but I mean, there's just no way. I mean, she's not. I don't know. And then the people that took over, I don't watch the show. I see clips of things that people send me. There was one Charlie, and you just got to acknowledge that.
And people say that it's growing because the last events that they've had, they had a big turnout, but it's still running on Charlie Kirk gas.
That's maybe true.
So-
There was a big tank in there so they need to fill it back up. Any questions from
No.
Alamo Talk? Mark Antoine?
Somebody responded to you, MJ, I think. MJ said, Nico, your question on how many doctors are American. 75% are U.S. citizens by birth and naturalization. 25% are foreign-born or intentionally trained. 18 to 20% are international.
Where'd you get that from, MJ?
MJ.
I don't know where she got that
They say, and only 5% are here on visas at any given time, H-1B and J-1, etc.
Is that data that she's getting?
That sounds a little. It sounds a little spurious to me. It does, and I have to be honest with you. The cert, this 5%, it's not just overall, but it's rather recent. I think this is the criticism that under the Biden administration, there's been an absolute surge. We've been abusing it for years, but under Biden, we saw a spike. That's the concern, MJ, is that the majority of that data happened literally within 5 years. That's the problem. There's been a concerted importation of foreign quote unquote talent that doesn't assimilate and that frankly we do not need. We don't.
Yeah. So we want to thank everybody that was listening. So by the end of the show, one thing that we've learned is that Nico and George have to visit a rabbi.
And then you need a laser off Nick Fuentes from your lower back.
From my butt.
Your lower back.
I think, by the way, everybody should hang out with Rabbi and talk to
I
a
love
rabbi.
it. Look,
go to Seder meals.
Yeah, man.
mean,
Look, we don't do an official Shabbat. You know, I mean, on Fridays. I mean, I bless my children every day. You know, Numbers 6:24. I mean, I bless on them every day. They cannot leave the house without the blessing. I think the idea of a Shabbat is a wonderful idea where you bless your family, have a meal together. I mean, these are wonderful traditions.
Have you heard the podcast of when Charlie Kirk's talking about his Shabbat? How he started turning off his phone on Friday or Saturday?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
And
it's
then he would
amazing,
piggyback
man.
on
It's
Sunday.
amazing.
Yeah, that's a great. I make excuses that clients need to call and someone's in. I get all that, but I could put it away and just check it periodically. I should. It's something that Davi's been talking about for a long time.
And there's a lot of, and again, we are creatures of exaggeration, or sometimes we're passionate, and that passion gets misinterpreted. But the Jewish culture is so beautiful. There's a lot of great, beautiful things now that we don't like the government today or different things, but it's such an amazing culture, and I think a lot of people are not being able to pay attention to that. That's what I tell Maurice and Q. I'm like, the black community is so rich and beautiful and stuff like that, but there's 3 or 4 morons that do bad stuff.
Sure.
You can't pay attention to the beauty. Same thing with the Latinos.
Right.
There's illegal immigration. The Latino community is so rich and beautiful, but because of illegal immigration, it doesn't give us the opportunity to look at that.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's happening with every other topic. But
I agree. Look, the bottom line is this on all those topics. I mean, the bottom line is we need to think about what is happening versus how it's happening. And I think with ICE and immigration, I think most people supported what they're doing, how they're doing it. I think some of it's legitimate criticism. And look, if your boat is sinking and water's coming in, you're going to just get the water out. You're going to plug up the hole, and then you're just going to be digging the water out, and you might throw out your valuables because you're just chunking water out. That's what's happening here a little bit. And look, a lot of it they're getting a bad rap on some of it. But look, I've seen some abuse of authority.
Yeah.
I've seen some people that have been swept up, and some people will say, "Well, that's too bad. That's just the way it goes." Well, unless it's you or your family, it's too bad the way it goes, or your loved one. But all I'm saying is, yes, there's overcorrections on both sides. With Israel, look, the government's the government. We should be able to question government. You can say I support Israel, but I criticize this because I want them to do better. That's fine too. This has nothing to do with the Jewish people, in my opinion. I mean, I have a lot of friends that happen to be Jewish, and I love them. I want to talk to them about Christ because I mean, one of our colleagues, one of our of council, wonderful civil lawyer, is Jewish, and love on him, and we would do great work together, and we serve our clients well. But I mean, at some point, I want to have a conversation about Christ with him. Because, I mean, look, I believe and I think it's biblically accurate for Christians that unless you bow your knee and accept Christ as your Savior, Romans 10:9, and then, you know, you have John 16:4. I mean, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one gets to the Father but through me. I mean, if I believe that, then I need to make sure that I can talk to people about Christ. And so all that to say is I don't think, I hope that this conversation continues to be had around truth, I think we need to contend with Nick Fuentes and your tattoo. and Candace and Tucker and I just think I hope the GOP can get their shit together.
Nico, the first time I went to Israel in 2020, Jose Chema Reynoso, when I was about to go, I was all excited, right? I was young, but he said, "Solo, no vayas como turista." That's what he said. Don't go as a tourist. Go and try to learn the culture. Go try to learn the people. Go talk to people. Go read the Bible and tell people to explain it to you. Go on an expedition and try to learn as much as you can. Don't go as an American tourist.
And he talked in that voice like the Dos Equis guy.
Yes, bro, his voice. Jose Chema Reynoso used to work with Charles Stanley.
That voice, that name, he better have that voice.
It's either the Dos Equis guy or Puss in Boots. What is it? Antonio Banderas.
Antonio Banderas, yeah.
Okay, well, guys, thanks for joining us this week. We always enjoy you joining us. We appreciate your support. Please share this with people. Make your comments. We try to look at the comments even after the show and respond back and share this with people you think they may enjoy it. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.